hate bees, but they're actually potentially smarter than I am.
This episode's sponsored by Brilliant. Learn to think.
Bees that play with balls and do math.
You've probably noticed that they're not
just
the
like me.
largest of animals, and thusly are endowed with a brain suitable for their smallnessness.
They're just
Here
like
it
me,
is,
bro.
the brain of a bee.
Ew.
I mean, honestly,
I
it
don't
looks
like
fairly
that.
large on the screen like that. But this Xbox controller, which is apparently what controls a bee, only has around 960,000 neurons in it. Compare that to the 100 billion or so neurons in a human brain. You see that right there? No? Well, that's the bee brain to scale. Anyway, with stats like that, you might expect a bee to suck at Scrabble, which they do. But they can remember the
Hi, Brian.
directions to a flower a mile away. Not sure I could do that. And they can learn which flowers have the good sauce. This bee right here, for example, learned that those
What?
yellow third-grade arts and crafts flowers had the better nectar to drink, while the blue ones had the better pollen to rub all over. It's the best day of that pipe
Isn't
cleaner.
it crazy that bees' brains are so small and yet they can retain knowledge like
Life.
that? And like not even retain knowledge, but also understand.
I know what you're thinking. Big deal.
That's crazy to
Learning
me.
to tell flowers apart is like the main business of being a bee. Of course they're going to toss a couple 100,000 neurons at something important like that. But what about if things get a bit more complicated? See this puck? Well, in the middle of this puck, there's a divot with some sugar juice in it. And bees, they love the sugar juice. Now, of course, if you put a cap over top that sugar juice, you get some bummed out bees. But if you take that cap and cover just a little bit of that food hole, and then each time the bee comes back, you cover it up a little bit more until it's totally covered. You get some
Psychological
bees that maybe
torture to a
complain
bee.
on Yelp about the restaurant going to shit. But also bees that gradually figure out that you can push that cap out the way. And once you light that fire, some of them really get into the pushing. All right, Millie, you did it. You can stop now. Pretty clever, these bees.
Like your pet.
But if you train them on a different shape cap
The bee,
and then
probably.
present them with both kinds of caps, they'll push the shape they were trained on first, regardless of which one is covering up the sugar hole. So they're learning, but they're not quite getting
Look at the
full
little thing the little labels on the bees so I can remember. That's
picture.
wait.
But
There's my mouse. The little label on the
pushing things
bee.
out the way is pretty normal for a bee. Flowers like that of the black locust don't just give up the pollen. You have to force it open. So what about learning something new that doesn't involve pushing? Here you have some flowers, I'm doing air quotes. They've got a hole in the middle with sugar in it, and the whole thing is under a clear cover. But there's a string attached that you can pull to get at it. Now you give this setup to a bunch of bumblebees and not much happens. A lot of buzzing around. I mean, might be because the flowers look like crap. Didn't even draw petals on them.
You beeped out the word crap.
I know it's scientists didn't have
Based.
the balls to go to art school, but still.
Not on my Christian
anyway,
stream.
You might find a rare bee, a 1 in 100 sort of thing, that can figure this thing out on the first go. But you know those kind of bees, getting drunk the night before the SATs sort of bees. But most of the rest of us, them, need a little help. But what you can do is train them by gradually pushing the flower under the cover, and that way they learn to pull on the string to get the juice.
What?
Not bad, right? And listen, once they learn it, they're champs at it. I mean, you want to give them a job. But look at this. You take another bee that doesn't know how to do
This is
it.
a holy
Put that
flashbang.
bee in a box and let it watch the trained bee pull the string. Now let that bee out the box, and you know what? It friggin' learned
What? I'm sorry, the bee learned by watching another bee pull the string?
by watching. Now the trained bee can still do some things that this one can't. Like if you add extra string so the flower doesn't move right away, the trained bee keeps pulling until it works. The one who learned by
What?
watching just kind of gives up. So some things aren't getting across. But in this way, they can teach each other some very complex
Ugh,
things.
they kind of give me the heebie-jeebies
Here's
though.
a
Bees
bee
still
trained
freak
to
me
do
out.
a two-step puzzle where you only get the reward at the end. And again, another bee can learn just by watching.
They really
Looks
have
like
a whole
bit of an
brigade of
annoying
training
student.
bees.
Like it's right up in there. Oh, now he's gone for a vape. All right, I'm back. Blue thing,
this
red
guy
thing.
with, like,
Got it.
vapes
I
and
know what you're
drinking.
thinking. What about balls? Listen, what you heard is
That's
true.
what I'm always thinking.
Bees love balls.
Bees
like before
love
I even show
balls.
you stuff about how smart they are, you should know that bees really love balls. If you make a clear path from a bee's nest to food, nothing in the way. But to get there, the bees have to walk past what is essentially a bee-sized Chuck E. Cheese ball pit. They stop and they play with those friggin' balls. Not for some
so
reward
cute.
or anything like that. They play with balls.
What?
So it's not surprising that you can train a bee to play one round of mini golf. And look at how they train them, with a little bee puppet on a stick.
I'm sorry. They have a golf thing where they have a fake little bee puppet that pushes the ball into the hole to train the other living bee how to do that.
And when they put the ball in the middle, they get a sugar snack. And they eventually get the hang of it.
I didn't know you
Look at
could
this
train
one.
bees.
She throws it so hard she does a somersault. And she's like, come on, it hit the middle. Where's my sugar? Anyway, now you have the train.
Why are we training bees to mini golf? Why wouldn't we?
Teach a
This
novice
is
bee how to put
awesome.
the ball in a hole. But this time you have 3 balls, and the 2 closest
Bee
ones
Olympics?
are
I'm
glued
seeing it
down,
right now,
so
dude.
it has to use
Millie's
the farthest
killing it.
one.
When is the
Now
Jerry
you let-
Seinfeld cameo
Name of the
as the
bits!
narrator?
What? What do you mean?
The novice bee try it on its own, and you
Oh,
don't glue down
that's
any
a
of the
bee
balls.
movie.
And you know what? It uses the ball that was closest to the middle. The one that gets you the
very
treat
I
the
was gonna make a
fastest,
B
even
movie
though it
joke
was
about
trained
5
on a
minutes ago, and then I
different ball.
opted not
That's
to.
Innovation. Now this allows knowledge to spread through an entire colony. Bees teaching other bees. That's what this shows, how that string pulling skill from before went from A to B to B to B. If you like this show and you like to learn like the bee do, please go and check out Brilliant.org. Brilliant is a free and easy way
Ad
to learn
time,
math,
ad
science,
time.
and computer science. They have been a long time sponsor.
Ooh, is the audio
of True
super
Facts
loud?
because
Has it
I
been
think
really
they're
loud this
great
entire
at
time?
Teaching.
I'm so
Of
sorry.
course, how
Audio
technology
mixing is really.
works, for
What the
example,
frick was
helps
that?
you understand the
Oh,
things you
tarantulas,
interact
hell
with
no.
every day. You can find
The
out why
audio
the
mixing is
passwords
super
you've been
inconsistent
using
with
aren't up to
YouTube.
snuff,
I'm sorry if it's been
and how to
drowning me
craft
out.
a good one. There's lessons on how recommendation algorithms work and why you suddenly see all those ping pong videos in your feed. Turns out there's lots of choices being made for
Ad
you.
time, ad time.
And then there's lessons on how to compress
It wasn't
those
crazy
ping
loud?
pong
Oh,
videos
so you
to
can still hear
smaller
me.
file sizes
Okay.
without losing quality. And if all this inspires
still
you
good
to
now?
switch careers, well, you can use Brilliant to learn how to code. With courses like programming with Python or thinking in code. It's amazing. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/zayfrank or click on the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Start learning, get inspired. Check out Brilliant today.
You have to wonder if people are
You
actually
will.
clicking on the
Oh,
ads
right. It makes
from these
sense that
insert
bees
videos.
can
Have you
share
ever?
knowledge.
I haven't.
Bees are social butterflies. Well, they're bees, but they all live together and they have to have some complicated roommate meetings, like who's going to get the groceries.
I never do.
Or in this example,
I'm sure
how to
people do.
choose the location of a new home.
I'm sure some people
Now,
do,
out of
but
10,000
does it really justify
bees
the
or so,
millions of
only
dollars
a
some
couple
ad inserts
hundred of them
cost?
are the scouts. And the scouts go off and look for
I think
a
Mr.
good
Beast charges like
location,
10
maybe
mil
a
for an
nice
ad slot.
hole.
That's
Now, if they find
ridiculous.
something, they come back with directions. But they don't blab about it. They do it through interpretive dance. It's like if a mime had to give directions.
Oh, that's
to the
giving me
porta
the,
potty at
I don't like that.
Coachella. Here's how it works.
food
They do this
service
sort of
ad got me
figure eight thing,
yesterday.
right? And when they go through the
Or
center,
like
they shake their
fucking
ass.
Burger
This already
King.
packs in a bunch of info. It's
Jack
like
in the
a Morse code of
McDonald's is
Turkey.
like, oh yeah,
The
this place
direction they
exists.
move in while they shake it corresponds to the direction of the location. Check it out. They're doing this on a vertical surface. The up direction means straight towards the sun. Down is away from the sun.
Donate 10 mil so we can get
this
Tori
direction
an
here is like
ad in
5
Mr.
o'clock
Beast. Do you
away
think he
from
would
the
accept
sun.
it?
Now the distance to the
Do
location.
you think if I
is
came
how
up to Mr.
long
Beast and I was like, hey, I will pay whatever money you want, put me in a video. Like as an ad slot. Oh my god,
It's
could
roughly
you
1,000
imagine, guys?
meters for every
Donathon.
second of shaking.
That's a
Apparently
fire
they're
donathon
bombing the
idea.
metric system. Bullshit. Now you might be thinking, how the hell do these bees know how far they flew? Well, at one point they thought the bees were measuring the energy that they used to get there. So they put tiny weights on the bees to see if it changed their estimates. And you know what? It mainly proved you shouldn't put weights on bees. Now there's a bunch of bees with muscular calves walking around. Another
Buff
time
bee.
they put these tents up as landmarks
bee
on
play
the
with
way
ball.
from a hive to a feeder.
Me
And
hiccup.
then they changed the number of landmarks, which seemed to confuse some of the bees.
That might be the
what
only thing
now,
to get me to
bees
watch a
can
Mr.
count?
Beast
Well,
video.
it seems they
A
can,
freaking
especially
VTubers
lower
insert.
numbers. Here's one avoiding 4 and landing on 2. Here's one they taught to tell the difference between 11 and 12. You can give them 2 scenarios and train them to pick the larger one or the smaller one in this scenario. Look at it go back and forth.
I had
just
no
to be
idea you could
sure.
train a bee.
Perfectionist bee. And if you train it on picking the larger number, it won't just pick the one with more shapes. It'll also pick one with the same number of shapes, but where the shapes themselves are bigger. It's like the concept of larger. And look at this. If you train them to pick the smaller thing, they recognize that
If bees can do all this, how are we humans not smarter? We have like 100 times the amount of neurons, 100,000 times the amount of neurons that these nerds have. How are we
nothing
not
is
smarter?
smaller than something.
I
And
feel
that's
like
the
I might
concept
even
of
struggle to
zero.
do this.
In this one, the bee sees yellow shapes. It's trained to go inside and look for the panel with one less than the number of shapes.
It's not about the
inside.
neurons.
For
It's how the neurons are
subtraction,
used. Right,
if
right,
the
right.
color of the shapes
It's not
is
about how
blue,
large the
bee
neurons
knows
are.
to
It's how you
add
use
one to
them.
the number. I mean, they can do math. You probably only knew about their spelling. Kill me. But discrete counting doesn't seem
I like
to be
the
the
narrator.
thing that helps them judge distances. Instead, they seem to use something called optical flow, which is kind of like the rate that things go by in your visual field. And if you know that this is how bees measure things, you can kind of screw with them. You put them in a
Pre-roll ads
tunnel,
are
for
disabled. I
example,
know,
with
you keep
stripes on the
telling
floor.
me,
As
Twitch.
it passes over the stripes, it measures the distance and has an appropriate ass shaking. Now
Same.
you do the same
Sorry,
thing, except
same.
in
I
this
mean, what-
one,
same.
the stripes are moving.
Ass
So
balls.
as the bee
Ugh.
flies, it thinks it's covering a hell of a lot more ground. And it tells its buddies about a location
If you were
that's
properly motivated with
miles
some
away.
sugar water, you
Meanwhile,
could do
put
it.
a horizontal
This is
stripe
true.
and nothing
Beekeeper
changes while you
starring
fly
Jason
over it.
Statham
They
watch
don't know how
along
far they
when.
went.
Please.
And this explains, by the way,
Name of the
why
mix!
bees will often drown if they fly over still water.
What is
You can see this effect
Beekeeper?
by using a
Isn't
mirror,
that that?
too.
I think I've heard
The
of that
bee
movie
keeps
before.
getting
I
closer
think.
to the ground to try and
Why?
discern some movement. But all
Oh,
it
is that a
is
doc- is it a
reflection of
documentary,
stationary
maybe?
bee. So you can see it keeps bunking into the ground. Anyway, in addition to distance and direction, there's one more thing that seems to be communicated in this dance. The
What?
bee's estimate of how good the location is that it's found seems to
Look
be
at that guy
related to how often
throwing
it
it
does
back
the
on the
dance
right
in a
corner.
row.
Oh my
If it
God.
thinks it's found something great.
My
it just
God, if
keeps
you will.
going. And then there's bees like this one that don't seem very enthused. It flew like 3 feet and found a shoe. Now, the reason for going on and on about a good location is because the bees eventually have
Shimmy,
to
shimmy,
pick
ya,
one
shimmy, ya,
location for
shimmy,
their
ya.
new home. So
It was
these
an action
dances
movie,
aren't just
Beekeeper?
about the directions. It's about marketing. If you found a good location, you try and convince other scouts to check it out. And then
What?
dance like you do until there's enough to make the decision. And listen, since you've stayed around this
The
long,
Bee
I'll tell you one
Council.
other thing. All of this communication about
Bee
distance
yacht.
and location and quality mainly happen inside a hive, in the dark.
Oh,
Mic
hell
drop.
no.
A tiny little bee
Oh, hell
mic
no.
drop.
David the Bits!
You think
Tori
the bee
works while
likes the
working
honey?
confirms
okay.
no wonder the temperature is so warm in her room.
Okay. It actually hasn't been that hot in my room lately. Because of the fan you guys got me. Thank you. Bees love balls. Yeah! And of course, we have a shout out to my man, Kevin McLeod. If you don't know Kevin McLeod, you absolutely do. They got the hype train, chat. Can we get a hype train in honor of Jesus' comeback? Holy crap. Animal communication is so interesting. Yeah, isn't that crazy that animals just have an unspoken language with one another? That's fascinating to me. Kevin McLeod, the GOAT. You absolutely all have heard of Kevin McLeod's music before.